you ever seen a movie based on a cartoon that feels like it's completely shitting on what made that cartoon so iconic? Well, yeah, Scoob is a close one, but for me, one of the worst is Tom and Jerry the movie, an unbelievably awful adaptation of the cartoon that just disconnects you from the source material. And that's weird considering the new one is mostly live action. I already reviewed this movie a long time ago, but like other movies in this annual event, I wanted to give it an updated look. Given the last movie I talked about, I guess it fits more than I thought. Fuck, even the movie's beginning reminds me of Scoob's, in that it starts out really good and then it drops in quality after about 10 minutes. It starts out with Tom and Jerry preparing to move away from their old home, and after some hijinks ensue, the owners drive off without them. They attempt to stay at their old home for survival until it's eventually destroyed, and thus they have to try and survive on the streets. Like I said, the first 10 minutes of this movie are actually really solid. It sets up the story and the characters in a great pace, and all without hardly any dialogue. Honestly, if this were more of a silent film, maybe I'd have forgiven all of it if it was trying to challenge how kids interpret the characters' feelings. But sadly, that idea drops like a rock after this dog tries to convince Tom and Jerry to be friends. And after that happens, the two run into an orphan girl named Robin who's on the run from her big evil aunt who treats her like crap. Okay, I guess all of a sudden we're in a Rescuers plot. I'm not even kidding. The story is literally a rehash of the Rescuers, just replace one of the mouse with a cat and basically nothing else has changed. Oh, and to make it worse, let's have those two animals be two of the most iconic cartoon characters of all time. Look, it's one thing to try and have a larger narrative, but it's another thing when you jump from one story to another. The movie starts off with Tom and Jerry, but now all of a sudden we're focusing on this generic orphan girl who's trying to find her father. I can't believe the similarities I'm noticing with this and Scoob, but at least that movie had some kind of foreshadowing to the plot it would fall into. Yeah, it sucked, but at least there was some foreshadowing. Here we start with nothing but Tom and Jerry for a bit, then we just sort of forget about them. Oh sure, they help Robin try and find her dad, but they serve almost nothing to the plot. All the important details could easily be done with other characters, and that actually happens from time to time. I swear a good 40% of this movie doesn't even have Tom and Jerry on screen. They feel so disconnected that you forget you're even watching a Tom and Jerry movie. You know, unless the movie didn't already forget about it. Maybe I'd have forgiven this new story if it was entertaining, but oh God, is it anything but. Not only is it a Rescuers ripoff, but what we get out of this plot is really weird and formulaic. The villain is just a carbon copy of the one from the Rescuers, except she's a relative of Robin, so I guess we're also copying Cinderella elements, and good lord is she creepy. And not the fun or interesting creepy, there's just so much that's off about her design. And Robin is completely uninteresting. They don't give her a fun or likable personality, all she amounts to is just trying to escape from her aunt and find her father. Oh, but I'm supposed to care because she misses him a lot. Well, maybe I would have if the movie did a better job of showing it, or if she was more interesting. I don't care about you wanting to find your father, I want to see what goes on with Tom and Jerry. And I suppose while I'm talking about these two again, I may as well get to one of the biggest complaints the movie gets.
I'm Tom.
I'm Jerry.
You talked!
And like a lot of people, I really hated this choice. By making Tom and Jerry talk, you're moving away from the charm of the characters. People seem to forget that storytelling can still be good even if the characters hardly say a word. That's why the first 10 minutes worked, because I was able to tell how the characters were feeling and the choices they made even if they don't talk. I know Tom and Jerry can speak from time to time, but it was usually for comedic effect. But because they have them talk throughout the movie, it almost feels like the writers were afraid kids wouldn't connect with them as much if they were silent. It's far from my main problem with the movie, but it's distracting nonetheless. It doesn't help that their actual voices don't hit home for me. Richard Kind is kind of okay as Tom, even if it does sound kind of off from time to time. I mean, his scream doesn't even come close to topping William Hanna's. But Dana Hill's performance as Jerry is just bad. Why does she make Jerry sound like a little kid here? Do the writers think he's a kid? The same mouse who flirts with babes every once in a while? Seriously? Actually, a lot of the voice acting annoys me. I think the only one I liked hearing was Tony Jay as the butler, but the rest are either annoying, unfitting, or just plain bad. Even the animation looks incredibly dull. I remember when the Hanna-Barbera shorts had some of the best animation at the time. The movement, the expressions, how you can see the craft in every single frame. This looks like a cheap direct-to-DVD movie, and it baffles me that this was released in theaters like this. And it doesn't help when the animation, again, has a lot of weirdly creepy shots. Oh, and did I forget to mention the songs? What? You didn't think a Tom and Jerry movie would have songs? Well, this one does, and...
We two, we're friends to the end. Ain't we, my friend?
they're all terrible. Well, I guess I kinda liked Robin's song, but I think it's just the singing I like. The rest of them have stupid lyrics and really bad singing. Not to mention, a good third of them just come in out of nowhere when it doesn't call for it. So can you see why this movie feels so disconnected from its source material? Tom and Jerry the movie is anything but what it's trying to be. This isn't Tom and Jerry. It's the rescuers with a random cat and mouse in their place. If this was the movie that introduced you to Tom and Jerry, then I am so sorry because you deserved so much better than this. I don't know if the new movie is gonna be good or not. I haven't seen it as of the time I'm recording this, but holy shit, it has to be better than this. If it wasn't obvious, skip this piece of shit and just go watch the new one.